Hello, and welcome to another episode of All Things Money. I'm your host, Dr. Kent, here to take you through the latest happenings in the world of finance as we wrap up the week ending Friday, December 12th. I hope everyone is doing well and settling into December, a month where the financial world never fails to surprise. Now, in last week's episode, we went into the ripple effects of the Federal Reserve's actions on market trends, and today we have even more topics to cover. Let's kick things off by looking at this week's stock market performance. The market has been on a bit of a roller coaster lately, largely influenced by the ongoing reactions to federal policies and, of course, inflation rates, which remain a hot button issue. It's interesting to note how sensitive different indices have become to even the slightest hint of policy changes. Luckily, we have insightful updates and analysis on just such movements. If you haven't checked our market insights before, it's definitely worthwhile. But let's take a moment to explore what exactly happened this week. Markets reacted positively to the Fed meeting last week, less so on account of the widely expected 25 basis point interest rate cut, but more around the broader messaging from the central bank on the economic and policy outlook, in my view. While it looks like the Fed is preparing to take a pause from its cutting cycle in January, commentary from Chair Powell suggests that the FOMC will remain responsive to further weakness in the labor market and that the committee remains optimistic inflation will cool. Against this backdrop, most FOMC members are forecasting lower rates next year. I see scope for one or two cuts, leaving the Fed funds rate in the 3% to 3.5% range and removing the drag on the economy seen from high interest rates over recent years. Falling interest rates will likely weigh on cash returns in 2026, especially when we adjust for inflation. Investors could consider moving toward longer maturity fixed income investments or increased allocations to diversified equities as I see a broadening in market leadership. Small cap equities outperformed last week as investors continue to show signs of rotating into lower valuation stocks, which might benefit from Fed easing, with tech names appearing to take a breather after some disappointments in high-profile earnings reports. In my view, the rally in the wake of last week's Fed meeting wasn't down to the 25 basis points interest rate cut delivered by the FOMC, which was widely expected. Instead, I think investors likely took encouragement from signals around the policy outlook and news that the Fed will start buying Treasury bills to support liquidity in short-term money markets. The decision to cut was, as anticipated. Two FOMC members, Schmid and Goolsbee, voted against the move, expressing concerns over elevated inflation. Moreover, individual members' interest rate forecasts show that four other policymakers were inclined to leave rates unchanged in December, with these either not scheduled to vote at this meeting or convinced to support a cut. Despite objections, the majority supported a third consecutive cut on account of concerns over the labor market. Hiring has clearly slowed in 2025, and amid disruptions to high-quality data after the government shutdown, another rate cut was seen as a prudent step to protect against risks of a deeper deterioration. Given splits on the FOMC and elevated inflation, the market had been expecting last week's move to be accompanied by hawkish messages that might indicate less chance of future interest rate cuts. There were nods in this direction. Subtle changes to the FOMC press statement suggest the central bank is preparing to pause its easing cycle, similar to the message in December 2024 before an extended pause. Moreover, Chair Powell indicated that following 175 basis points of rate cuts since September 2024, it may be appropriate to wait and see how the economy evolves before moving again. However, while these comments seemingly set up a pause in near-term policy easing, they were perhaps not as hawkish as feared. First, Chair Powell struck a cautious tone on the job market, calling this extremely weak and warning that negative non-farm payroll readings are possible. This caution suggests the FOMC will likely remain highly sensitive to further disappointments in the labor market. Second, FOMC members lowered their inflation forecast this year and next, despite becoming more optimistic on growth. This indicates greater confidence that upward pressures on inflation due to tariffs will likely be temporary, and that the economy can rebound in 2026 without maintaining inflationary pressures. Finally, 12 out of 17 members continue to expect lower interest rates, with the median forecast pointing to one cut in 2026 and one more in 2027. Chair Powell was tight-lipped when asked about the Fed's next step, but did indicate that it was unlikely this would be a hike, maintaining a bias for further rate easing. These indications reassured investors, driving a rally in shorter-term bond markets, which are pricing in 225 basis point cuts next year, and a softening in the dollar. They also helped equities, particularly in the interest rate-sensitive small-cap sector, which again outperformed big tech names over the week. This rotation was amplified by a stumble across the Magnificent Seven after Oracle and Broadcom results that raised concerns over AI investment and short-term revenues. These market moves might have also been amplified by news that the Fed will buy $40 billion in Treasury bills each month until April to support liquidity in money markets. This reflects a technical adjustment to how the Fed sets interest rates, in my view, as opposed to any shift in policy, such as quantitative easing, whereby the central bank buys longer maturity securities to lower longer-term interest rates and stimulate the economy. However, some investors see a less clear distinction between these policies, interpreting purchases as a form of policy easing. Looking ahead to 2026, while I think we are approaching the end of the Fed easing cycle, there still looks to be room for one or two cuts, leaving interest rates between 3% to 3.5%. A weak labor market, particularly around the start of 2026, should make a case for lower rates, in my view. We get the delayed November non-farm payrolls data on Tuesday, with forecasters expecting a modest 50,000 gain in jobs over the month. Further sluggish increases as we move into 2026 would argue for additional easing, in my view, especially given the sensitivity at the Fed to these downside risks. We will also be watching consumer spending closely for signs that a cooling labor market is starting to weigh on spending. Tuesday's October retail sales data will be an important waymark on this front. However, we would need to see a sharp deterioration in the economic outlook to justify more aggressive easing. With inflation still running well above its 2% target and expected to do so through 2026, I think the Fed needs to be mindful that too much policy loosening could exacerbate price pressures. There are a few important takeaways from Fed Week. First, returns on cash or very short-term investments like money market funds, CDs, and Treasury bills have already fallen, and I believe that yields will likely continue to move lower in the year ahead. I think this is especially pressing in an economy in which inflation is running close to 3%, meaning the real return on cash-like investments will likely be close to zero. Investors might consider moving up the curve to take advantage of somewhat higher returns. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield has increased in recent weeks from its 2025 low of 4% to around 4.2% at present. However, I don't see significant scope for government bonds to rally much from here. Instead, the 10-year Treasury yield should remain range-bound between 4% to 4.5% through much of 2026, in my view. With the Fed nearing the end of its easing cycle, inflation still elevated, and lingering concerns over the U.S. federal debt outlook, there looks to be few triggers for yields to move materially lower. For those investors with more risk tolerance and longer time horizons, I suggest increasing allocations to equities as opposed to bonds. At present, I believe targeting diversified portfolios of domestic and international stocks is most appropriate. Domestically, I like large-cap equities to help maintain exposure to the ongoing AI investment cycle. However, the recent rotation away from mega-cap tech companies into other sectors and cap sizes highlights the benefits of diversification and potential for a broadening market leadership, in my view. I think mid-cap stocks offer a way to benefit from the steady growth and lower interest rates I anticipate next year. Similarly, I think portfolio resilience can be enhanced by geographical diversification too, with international equities and emerging market equities both attractive at present given solid earnings prospects and lower valuations compared with U.S. large-cap stocks. I've seen tech stocks encounter some turbulence thanks to recent earnings reports that missed analyst expectations, yet interestingly, sectors such as consumer staples and healthcare are showing resilience in this climate. This divergence in sector performance offers a unique opportunity for both novice investors and seasoned traders to reorganize their portfolios strategically. It really highlights the importance of diversification, doesn't it? Speaking of diversification, I want to touch a bit on investment strategies tailored to young professionals, a topic we've been exploring over the past few episodes. For many young investors, market fluctuations can be daunting. But remember, these early years are about building a foundation that can withstand such turbulence. A diversified investment approach can hedge against risks and also pave the way for long-term growth. If you're just starting, Consider exploring mutual funds or low-cost index funds as initial steps into investing. The trends this week also carry some broader economic implications. Let's talk about inflation for a moment. It's been on everyone's mind. Despite the Fed's aggressive measures to control it, inflation still looms over us like a persistent cloud. It affects everything from the price of goods at our local grocery stores to interest rates on loans and mortgages. This, in turn, influences consumer behavior and investor sentiment. We've touched on this before, but it bears repeating. Staying informed and nimble is key in these times. It's crucial to understand how these economic indicators influence the stock market. For instance, during volatile periods, some investors might react strongly to short-term variations in economic reports, while others use this as an opportunity to rebalance and recalibrate their investment strategies. So whether you're looking at boosting your savings or identifying new investment opportunities, keeping an eye on the broader economic narrative helps tailor financial decisions. Here's a real-life example. Consider a young entrepreneur looking to navigate these waters. They've started a small business, and rising inflation rates are affecting both operational costs and pricing strategies. By understanding the relationship between central bank policies and economic indicators, this entrepreneur could foresee potential financial headwinds and adjust their business plans accordingly. That's what financial literacy is all about, being prepared for whatever the market throws your way. On a more optimistic note, this week's data also suggests some emerging opportunities, especially with green energy and sustainable investments gaining traction. We've talked about the rise of ESG investing numerous times, and it's fascinating to see how this segment continues to grow, even amidst economic challenges. Advances in technology, coupled with a global push towards sustainability, mean that more resources are being funneled into this space. It's an ideal time for investors to consider how sustainability fits into their broader financial goals. For those of you wondering how this fits into your personal finance journey, here's an actionable takeaway. Try setting aside a portion of your portfolio to explore green investments. These could range from renewable energy stocks to funds focusing on sustainability-driven enterprises. Not only does this align with ethical investing, but it also taps into a rapidly growing market with significant potential. Now, as we approach the end of today's podcast, I'm reminded of a quote by the legendary investor Warren Buffett. The stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient. It's a wonderful reminder that, amidst all the excitement and volatility, patience and due diligence are key virtues. As you navigate these financial waters, remember to stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay composed. Before we wrap up, it's always good to have multiple streams of information to draw from. As always, I love hearing from you. So if you have questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. That's all for this week on All Things Money. Thank you for joining me. Remember to subscribe to the podcast for even more tips and strategies to empower your financial journey. Until next time, take care and keep your financial dreams within reach. Have a wonderful trading week ahead.